Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Emily. This is my channel, Books for Life. Today I'm coming at you with the part 1 of my January wrap-up. I don't know exactly how many books I will have read in January at this point. It's not quite the end of the month. We still have a couple of days left. So I figure I am going to have to do this in 2 parts because my reading has just been that good so far. But I thought that I would start with telling you the first few books that I read during the month of January. So far this month, I have read 9 books. I am hoping to get at least 2 more finished before the end of the month. So already this is so much better than my December went. If you watched my December wrap up, you'll see that I read 3 books the entire month. Actually 4 because there was one that I had forgotten to mention. I had also read one day in December. But this month is already exceeding that. Unfortunately, so far, I have not had a 5-star read, so that's a bit disappointing, but at least I have read a lot of different things. And I have read a lot of different things. Like, I have picked up books that were not even close to being on my radar. Like, I had no intention of reading them anytime soon, and I picked them up. So the first book that I read was A Heart and a Body in the World, and I did tell you that I was going to read this in my January TBR. This was my first read of the year. So this book is about this girl named Annabelle, and she suffers a pretty big tragedy. Now, I thought that I knew what the tragedy was. I was wrong. It wasn't that. So she's really having a difficult time coping with what has happened, and one day she is at a fast food restaurant. Somebody says something and it kind of like triggers something in her. She goes out to the parking lot. She just kind of like drops everything and just starts running. And she never stops. Like, she just runs for miles and miles and miles. And it's like midnight. And then she just like pops into a motel and stays the night there. And then the next day she continues running. And so she has decided to go on this journey where she's going to run across the United States. She's starting near Seattle and she wants to run to Washington, D.C. Her grandpa hears about this and hears that her mom is trying to sway her otherwise, and he hops in his RV and he decides that he is going to travel with her in order to help her do this because she needs a place to stay. She can't afford to stay in a hotel or a motel every night. He's going to cook for her. He's going to, on really hot days, bring her water at checkpoints and things like that. I did think this was a good story. I liked this. I thought it was an interesting way to deal with grief and to help overcome loss. Is it something that's actually going to happen? Probably not. I don't know how many teenagers are going to run across the United States, but I do know a lot of teenagers who are dealing with grief. So I could see how they could understand how paralyzing grief can be, unfortunately, and I can see where kids could connect to that idea. I thought it was good. I really enjoyed the grandpa. He was a fabulous character. And overall, I give it 4 stars. The first audiobook that I listened to during the month of January was Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. So this book follows a main character. Her name is Tate Jones, and she goes to London, and this is a vacation for her and her grandmother. She has looked forward to this forever, and she ends up meeting this boy named Sam Brandis, and they hit it off, and it is that perfect, young love, first time romance. And she just like soaks it in and they're all about each other. And then he betrays her. And they do not meet for a long time later when she is actually on the set of a movie and their worlds collide again. And all those old feelings resurface, but the betrayal is still there. And they're trying to like work through all of this and actually just like come to a working relationship where they can actually like be in the same room. I am a huge fan of Christina Lauren's books. They write a lot of chick lit books that I just kind of like eat up. I really enjoy them. However, this one did fall a little bit short for me. It was very predictable. I thought it was okay. I wasn't hooked. I definitely liked like Love in Other Words more, The Honeymooners. I even like Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. I didn't think this had like the funny moments that some of the other ones have had. Like this didn't really feel like a romantic comedy type of a vibe that I was kind of hoping for. This was fine. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I would read it. I don't know that it would be one that I would purchase and want to listen to again. Like some of Christina Lauren's works I have purchased and would be willing, like on Audible, and I'd be willing to listen to them again, but I don't think this one is the case. So the next book is actually a book of the month pick, and I read more than one book of the month book. Like, go me. One of my goals is to read at least one book that I've got in a book box every single month, if you watched my 2020 goals, and that was a goal I had in 2019 as well. And I did more than one. Like, whoop, whoop. I actually read 3 different books that I got from book boxes. So the first one is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And this is about this woman named Cassiopeia Tun, who is basically like a servant in her uncle's household. So her mother left her household when she was young, like late teens, early 20s maybe, met Cassiopeia's father, they ran away together, they got married, had Cassiopeia, and she was kind of like disowned by the family. And so her father has died, and so her mother and her have to go back and live in her father's house. And so her grandfather kind of treats her like a servant. She has to do a lot of the chores. She really doesn't get all the privileges and the rights that the other family members get. And one day, when they're all out on a family outing, she goes into his room and she sees this black box that he sleeps with every single night. And she ends up going and she grabs the key and she opens this box. And this box unleashes the Mayan god of death. And when she does this, a shard of bone actually pierces her hand or her finger, I don't remember, and their lives are now intertwined. And she has to help him recover his like missing body pieces. Like he's missing an ear and an eye and a finger and a couple other things. So he doesn't have all of his power because he doesn't have all of his body pieces. So she has to travel with him in order to find them. This is based off Mexican folklore, which I really didn't know, like I wasn't really familiar with the story. You have a lot of the Mayan gods in here, and I thought that was fascinating. I really enjoyed this. This fell flat a little bit. I thought there'd be a little bit more of a romance piece to this, like not a lot, but a little bit. Like there was definitely some tension, but not as much as I was hoping. So I was missing that piece because I didn't think this was YA as much as I thought this was like maybe new adult. But this was a YA book. I would put it in my classroom. Like there was nothing wrong with this in any way, that anything that I would deem as inappropriate. It fell a little flat. However, I really enjoyed the characters. I liked the world. I loved learning about some of the Mexican folklore and some of the myths and some of the different gods that I didn't know about. So I thought that was really interesting. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book, I actually started a new series. It's a new audio series, and I was able to get all 5 of these books on Audible for 1 credit. So I am in the process of binging the entire series. So I read book 1. It's the Awakens series, and this is Awakens by Elise Kova. I have listened to book 1, Awakens, book 2, Fire Falling, and book 3, Earth's End. At this point, I am about halfway through book 4, and I am hoping to have that completely done at the end of the month, which is just a couple days. I'm sure I will because I only have a couple hours left. But I am just kind of going through this series. So this is about this girl named Vala, and she is a library apprentice, and she works in the library. She absolutely loves it. And one day, the prince gets really, really sick, and she is awoken in the middle of the night to go into the library with all of the other library apprentices, and they have to write down everything they can concerning like magical poisons as a way to try to like figure out what is happening. So we have a world with elemental magic in this book. So you have the fire bearers who are able to make fire and burn people and just control it. And then you have the water bearers, the earth benders, the earth shakers, and they thought the wind walkers were completely gone. They haven't had a wind walker in over 100 years. And of course, our protagonist, Vala, ends up helping to save the prince. And as she does so, she leaves traces of magic on the parchment that she writes. And they realize that she has magic, and she is the heir Awakens. Like, she is a windwalker who has finally been awoken. And people learn about this and people don't like it and people are scared of her because there's all this history to it. And she has to end up like going on this journey. So obviously, because I am in the process of book 4, I can't tell you too much more without spoiling books 1 and 2 and 3 for you. But no, like, this is all about her journey, becoming one of the first windwalkers to have walked the earth and the power that that entails in all of that. It is a typical YA fantasy story. You have a brooding prince, you have a magical system, you have the protagonist who all of a sudden is able to like fight and do everything you want her to do, even though all she's done is read books her entire life, which I tell you, it's not true. Like, I've read books my entire life, but I'm not going to be a good fighter. So you have all of those. It's definitely very tropey, but I'm really enjoying it. I gave book 1 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think I gave book 2 3.5 out of 5. Book 3 definitely went through like that mid-series slump. It wasn't nearly as good as the other two. Actually, I think I read on Goodreads, somebody wrote they could have just like taken the first part of book 3 and tacked it on to book 2, and the last part of book 3 and tacked it on to book 4, and gotten rid of everything else. And I'm like, that is so true. Like, that's it. The only parts that really mattered were the first, I don't know, 100 pages and like the last 100 pages. The rest of it didn't matter. So I would give that one like 3, maybe 2.5. It really was kind of boring and slow. It definitely was more there to like set up the next book, which I get, but at the same time, it's like, I really just listened to this for 12 hours and I only needed the first couple and the last couple hours. So that one definitely like fell a little flat for me. I can't tell you my thoughts on book 4 at this point because I haven't finished it, but so far I'm liking it better than book 3. So those are the first few books that I have read during the month of January. That's actually 6 books. So I'll be back with a second part soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll be back with a bookish video soon. As always, keep reading.